get us kicked off? All right, well then without further ado.
Matt's getting pizza.
Yes, another announcement. There's more pizza coming. All right, Ray, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. So I'll keep it short. Basically, I will introduce the teams we're going to talk about next, but I'll stay in the frame for the people we kicked out. So my name is Ryan Ghani. I teach at the University of Chicago. So last summer we started this new program there called Data Science for Social Good, and the idea behind that project was to really bring a lot of students from around the world focusing on computer science, statistics, econ, policies of quantitative, computational backgrounds, interested in doing something useful with their skills, right? So the rest of 1871 is worried about web apps. We're hopefully trying to do something more useful than that. And the idea was to see if we can start doing that earlier than midlife crisis, right? So we designed this program last summer where we brought 36 students to Chicago with those backgrounds who had an interest in applying those skills towards social good, whatever. For now, that's not defined what that means, but we sort of know what the idea behind that is. And then created projects with nonprofit and government partners to spend 3 months working in teams on those projects. So the primary goal was training the students to both learn how to solve these problems, but also to get a better understanding of what the problems were in these areas. And we all understand the problems of search and social networks and friend prediction, and because we experience them a lot more. But if you asked an average person, what are the biggest problems in public health or education or sustainability, we just don't have that intuition because we don't experience them as much. We're not, especially if you go to the computer science world, grad student, all they're exposed to is a lot of the e-commerce and the web companies, and not as much of the world that governments and nonprofits live in. So that wasn't a test for us. We tried that last summer. It finished in 3 months, and nobody died last summer. So we thought we'd try it again, a little bit bigger. So this summer we have 48 students, and similar structure. We have 12 teams working on 12 projects in conjunction with nonprofits and government partners. We're going to have 3 of them telling you about some of their projects very quickly, but there are 9 more who are not here. So if you want to learn more about the other 9, we have an event happening in the big auditorium next Tuesday, and there is a bit.ly link over there, 1YT9P88. If you go there, you can register for their limited number of seats. So if you go now, for a limited time only, it's free. There'll be every team that's presenting over there. So if you're interested in education, sustainability, healthcare, community development, international development, projects around those things, that we're going to be talking about a lot more of those. So today what we're going to do is we have 3 teams who are going to be presenting their work. The rest of so just going to give you context, the summer is 12 weeks of sort of intense, working on these projects. And then in a smaller scale, we continue this work after the summer at the university. So if you're interested in working with us in any way, whether as a partner from the nonprofit government side or as somebody who wants to help us work on these things, come talk to us afterwards. We're happy to kind of tell you more, get you involved, because the more people we have doing this, the better I think we can do. So with that, I want to take, let's see, the first team. You can find out more about us at dssg.Chicago. But I think the first team that's going to go is a team working with the city of Memphis. You guys want to go first? Sure. Oh, sorry. Ben. Okay, we just switch over to your PowerPoints and then you're good.
Perfect. You got it.
Sure.
Oh. There we go. All right. All right, great. Thank you, Raid, for the introduction. So my name is Ben Green, and I've been working with a few other folks at DSSG. So Alejandro, who's over there, Matt and Robert and Tom, who are in the back. And we've been working with the mayor's office in Memphis, specifically the mayor's innovation delivery team. And we've been trying to help them identify strategies to revitalize the city. So Memphis is like a lot of cities in America, which in that it's been, decisions there have been dominated by cars and suburbs. And so the urban core there has really received a lack of investment over the past 50 years. And so this has led to a situation where the city is, there are a lot of vacant and abandoned properties in the city. And so this is bad because both it has negative effects for the neighborhood around it, It's not just, it doesn't just affect one property. It affects the whole neighborhood if you have, an abandoned lot nearby. And it's also bad from the city government perspective because it brings down property values, which means that the city cannot generate enough money in property taxes. And so the city of Memphis is trying to boost these neighborhoods, but also to, bring in more money so they can provide services efficiently. So the first problem that Memphis faces is identifying where distressed properties are. And these properties could be anything from, completely abandoned. It might just need some repair, some structural damage, but there's a whole range of issues that they have. And so the first thing that we tried to do for the city was to build a predictive tool to identify where properties will be distressed. And so you can see in this model, in this map here, that we've been able to assign a risk sort to every single residential parcel from very high risk to very low risk. And looking at the map for 2013, we can see that it tracks onto what the city sees. And so the kind of letter C shape here that you see, the red and yellow, that's known, the city calls that the C of poverty, the letter C. So we are picking out those features. But now, instead of just knowing the general trends, the city of Memphis will have an interactive map where they can zoom into every single neighborhood, every street corner, and identify the properties that are, have the highest risk of becoming problem properties. And this is great because in the past they've had to, to do this sort of thing, they would have to have someone walking the street looking at every single property. And that's a really time-intensive and expensive process. And so they haven't done that for a number of years. And so now online they can just go and look and get a really quick snapshot view of which properties present the most issues. But the second part of this equation is what should the city do with the properties that we identify? And so we've been looking at how different investments into residential parcels, both from the government but also just from people, we're not really distinguishing between those two, how they affect neighboring home values. And so we've been able to see that when you invest in a home, such as providing structural repair or repainting it, some of that, even small, relatively small investments, only a few $1,000s, it has a pretty wide-ranging effect where nearby properties have an increased property value. And then we've also looked at demolition, which is kind of the other main thing the city will often do. And we're still a little less sure on the results on that, but it seems like that does not have as strong of a positive effect. It kind of doesn't seem to have much of a change. And so with this in mind, we can help provide the city with recommendations for how they should address these distressed properties so that they can have the most impact on improving communities and also generating more property revenues for the city. So thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you guys have.
How do you know that?
How do we know what?
What you just said at the end.
About which?
About like that, if you have this kind of intervention, then.
So yeah, so it's been a pretty hard question to get at. What we've been doing is looking at properties that are similar in a lot of their characteristics, and then comparing ones that did and did not receive investments, and then seeing if they generally picking properties that have similar characteristics, and over the previous few years before the investment, we see about the same property values, and then we're checking out how the property values in the neighborhood compare after the investment.
So you're using a propensity score matching, but you don't have any other instrument. There might be something else that's going on. You don't have a random assignment of the.
Right. Yeah. So it is pretty difficult to get to exactly. There aren't that many cases that we have to choose from. We're trying. We are open to better ways to select the best parcels. This has been a big challenge, and why we're still not super confident in our results. And trying to. And that's the idea between picking ones that have as many similar characteristics as possible. But yeah, we do recognize that when someone decides which property to, if someone invests in a property, there might be something that determines which ones receive money and which ones don't.
Is there any rationing of? Are there any programs that the city is running? So say Chicago has a bunch of programs that you have to qualify for, and if you get it, then then they'll come and help you with your lawn, right? Is there any like, so there's naturally rationing there?
Yeah.
I mean, and so you use that as, is there anything like that in Memphis that you can use as an instrument?
Not to the same extent. Memphis does do some investments. There are a number of CDCs that invest. The other thing is we haven't been looking, these aren't just investments from the city, these are just any sort of investment in the property.
Where are you going to measure on all the other investments?
We have building permit data from the city. And so we can just look at a permit to spend money on rehabbing a property. So, yeah. Yeah.
You said this was in Memphis?
Yeah, in Memphis, Tennessee.
Any particular reason? Choice?
You probably should ask Raid about that. So we came in, the fellowship chooses its partners before we specifically come in. I think Memphis was a city that has more data than a lot of other cities that were trying to, do a similar sort of project. And it's a city that has the capacity to kind of work with it moving forward. Is what I was
We were going to do a Where's Elvis project, so this would piggyback on that. but most of, I think the serious answer is, well, the way we pick projects, so one is we're pretty opportunistic, right? We want to create the best projects that give the students in our program a good experience, as well as help the partner. And so the criteria for our projects was, one is it has to be a problem that has some sort of social impact in some way. So that's the first filter. Second is that the partner we're working with has data that they've collected that they can share with us that allows us to do work on that project. And the third one is that they have the capability, interest, and some willingness to take our work and use it going forward. So the partners that met, and we started with 60 projects, 60 people who had come and said we're interested. And we sort of, they kept failing some of the filters, conversation happened over 6-9 months. And at the end, we had sort of 12 projects that fit all those criteria and made sense. So there was nothing special in, we didn't go out to Memphis and say, we'd love to help you. We were more opportunistic on who are the right, and there were other cities. New Orleans was really interested. San Jose, a couple other cities came to us about, but they didn't have the right ingredients that helped made us sort of create the right project. So Memphis was one of the better ones there.
And I will say that most of the data that we're using for this project is data that's similar to what we could get for Chicago that you guys can just download from the portal. The real key, I think, for the work that Ben's been doing particularly is the full city blight survey that people actually drove around in cars and did. And that's what lets us train all the models. We have the answer key for at least 1 year, 2008. So that's something that I don't think exists in Chicago.
Interesting. Do I have time for more questions? I'm happy to take that real quick. Yeah, in the back?
Yeah, I mean, so this might be a little too early to answer, but are there, knowing that this is a model in progress,
yeah,
what components of this are mature enough that City of Memphis has looked at and said, we can actually take some action based on specific aspects of it?
So I would say that is more this part, the model predicting individual parcels, whether or not they're at risk of becoming distressed. This is something that we've just completed. We're going to hand off to the city of Memphis hopefully this week. We've shown them images, and they definitely seem to think it's on the right track. But we still haven't been able to give them the map where they can kind of look in at an individual property. But we're hoping that they can maybe not start running experiments, but start at least kind of looking in more deeply and looking at a particular neighborhood and seeing if it does seem to fit in with what they think. And one of the major people that are going to benefit from this are the local CDCs. There are a lot of different neighborhoods that have groups that will, within a small area, either remediate homes or buy them and sell them, try to improve the community that way. So I think it'll be a great tool for them to figure out within their neighborhood which properties they should be focusing on. Thanks.